Ellen! Ellen?
Yes?
I've been going through our receipts from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going through our receipts from this year. We're spending a fortune on Christmas. You know what we should do?
What should we do?
I have an idea. I think maybe we should not do Christmas next year and save the money and spend it on ourselves.
What do you guys think? You think that's a good idea? Have you heard that idea before? I think you might have. If you've ever read Skipping Christmas by John Grisham, or what was the other thing that had that storyline?
You mean Christmas with the Kranks, based on the story by John Grisham?
No way!
Skipping Christmas.
Way. Okay, so that was a bit of a different intro than what we usually do, but she had a great idea, so we ran with it. So yeah, in case you haven't guessed, today's Christmas adaptation that we're discussing, your tongue blew matches your sweater. Christmas adaptation we're discussing today is Christmas with the Kranks, aka Skipping Christmas. I did not know that movie was based on a book.
I didn't know when I originally watched it. But I was watching the credits and stuff, and it said based on the story by John Grisham, Skipping Christmas, and I was like, or Grisham.
I don't know.
I think it's Grisham.
I think it's Grisham, yeah.
But yeah, so based on the story by John Grisham, Skipping Christmas, and I was like, what? There's no lawyers in this. And then I thought, oh well, maybe Luther is a lawyer.
John Grisham usually writes books about lawyers.
Yeah.
If you haven't read them, he writes a lot of court
With
lawyer type
stuff, and a lot of adaptations done.
Yeah.
To with his books.
What was
there was Runaway Jury. There was the Pelican Brief. Wasn't that one of his?
Yeah, I think so.
Pelican Brief was Denzel Washington. Lots of great movies.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah. I haven't read any of his books. Well, till now, I hadn't read any of his books. But
I have.
Yeah, I know you have.
Yeah.
You've been a big fan of his for a while.
Yeah.
But I hadn't read any of his books until now. I read Skipping Christmas, and it was good. Have you read the book? Because I hadn't even heard of it. Like I hadn't read John Grisham all that much, but I at least heard of his books. I heard of Christmas with the Kranks, but I hadn't heard of the book Skipping Christmas, and I did enjoy it though. It was read by an actor that I love.
It's an audio book.
Yeah.
So, she read it, but it was an audio book. So
yeah.
It was read to her.
Sorry, it was an audio book.
It sounded kind of funny. I read the book. It was read by him.
It was read by Dennis Boutsikaris. He was on the Blacklist. And Better Call Saul. He was on an episode of MacGyver. There we go. I brought up MacGyver again. I think that's going to become a drinking game. Salvation.
Oh yeah, that was a good show.
I liked that show.
Yeah, it was a really good book. It was, you laugh and you roll your eyes, and like I actually laughed out loud a few times.
Yeah, so did I.
So I can see why they did an adaptation.
And they cast the movie really well.
Yeah.
I watched the movie before reading the book.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah, I was going to say I was pushed, coerced into watching the movie because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't usually take to comedies.
Especially embarrassing humor.
But I don't like embarrassing.
She gets embarrassed for them.
Yes, I do. But she wanted me to watch it. But this is before we thought of doing it for this, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, was that the first time you watched it when we watched it around Thanksgiving?
Was it Thanksgiving that
yeah,
we watched?
Yeah.
That was my.
It was shortly after. It was shortly after American Thanksgiving. For those of you who don't know, Canadian Thanksgiving is usually the second Monday in October.
Yeah.
Whereas American Thanksgiving is the last Thursday in November.
In November, yeah.
But after American Thanksgiving, they start having Christmas movies and stuff on.
Yeah. So I hadn't watched it before she coerced me into watching it. But then we started talking about doing this series, talking about books that were adapted into Christmas movies. And I was like, oh no, this means I have to watch the movie again. But actually no, I didn't mind the movie. It wasn't nearly as embarrassing as I thought it was going to be. There was one in particular scene where I was like, oh look, solitaire on my phone. What a wonderful game. But...
And I know what one you're talking about.
And we're not going to worry about spoilers, by the way. I'm going to put in the description.
It was
that
the tanning scene.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
That was so funny. It was so funny.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Love Jamie Lee Curtis. And then Tim Allen in his
Speedo.
He's a cutie though.
Yeah.
So we both listened to the audiobook. And it was only like 3 hours and 45 minutes, I think. But both of us were doing other things, so it took a few different sittings to listen to it. But it was really good. I enjoyed it. As I was listening to it, the few differences that I noticed, the screenwriter in me was thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I can see why they made that change, and I can see why they made that change. Like with the tanning scene, Luther wasn't there with her in the book.
He had bought her a bikini for tanning.
Yeah, and then bought her a tanning salon package. So yeah, in the book, she went to the tanning salon on her own, and she's wearing this bikini, and she finishes the tanning session, pulls her clothes on over top of the bikini, leaves the tanning salon. She ran into the minister of her church around the corner from the tanning salon, and he had heard that she and Luther were not observing Christmas this year.
Yes.
He was the one who phrased it that way. They had the internal dialogue before where she's talked about how uncomfortable the bikini is and how tight it is and hard to walk in, and then he wants to talk with her. And she sits on a bench with him, and she keeps trying to cross her legs to try and get the bikini to fit more comfortably, and then she hears a snap, and the bikini bottom's actually snapped off. And yeah, anyway, so she endured the conversation with him and then shuffled out of the mall, cursing her bikini and her husband the whole way home. I thought, okay, well, as embarrassing as that scene was, I can see why they changed it, because the same tone that came across in her internal dialogue in the book came across loud and clear in the movie. So I can understand why they made that change.
It gave it a action rather than being
show instead of tell.
Most of the changes that they did in the movie were for that reason.
Yeah, to get
and well done.
Very well done. They did a really good job, but then they made additions that weren't in the book, like the burglar.
Right.
Because in the book the cops bring her and her fiance
Which
right
confused
back
me.
to the house.
Because in the book he has, like, here they are, they're rushing to get everything ready before Blair gets home, right? And so Blair's their daughter. She went to Peru to work with the Peace Corps, and they didn't think she was going to be home for Christmas. And that's where it all kind of blossomed from. They were depressed about Christmas and her not being there, especially...
He's like, why am I going to spend all this money on Christmas when my daughter's not here?
Yeah, and he, I think, always secretly kind of hated spending the money at Christmas. Anyway, being an accountant. Not that all accountants are like that, but it seemed a lot of the accountants in his firm that were that way. The police were... like, they picked them up at the airport and then were rushing back to the house. And I was like, why are you rushing? Like, take your time at least. You don't have to stall, but at least just take your time, because they're trying to get everything ready.
Yeah.
But then maybe they were just rushing because they didn't want to be doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that was an addition. Like, I don't know if John Grisham had any say in the script. Maybe that was, but it also, because what I was thinking originally.
I'm thinking it was confused about that, saying why were the police rushing?
Possible, or it might have been that they wanted more screen time. for the script, because although movies aren't supposed to be more than an hour and a half or 2 hours, it's also bad for them to be less than that. They need the movie to be minimum 90 minutes. I'm picturing, I don't know this for sure, but I'm picturing the screenwriter writing it exactly according to the book, except for the things that he had to show, not tell. But then they came out too short. So they ended up adding a couple of scenes. I don't know if the ham scene was in the book or not.
No, she went to the grocery store, but it didn't. There was nothing about the hickory honey ham.
No? Okay. Yeah. I was listening to it going to bed, so I thought I might have missed a scene. Right. But anyway, so they would have had to add some scenes to lengthen it, because it is a really short book. It's a novella. So although those are awesome for adapting into movies, because of the fact that you're not having to cut out a whole bunch of stuff to make the movie short enough, sometimes it can come out too short. So they might have had to fatten it up a bit.
Right.
And I think they still did a good job, because that was a really funny scene when they attacked them and
well, and it was kind of birthed out of the book, because it talks about, because she brings back her boyfriend, her Peruvian boyfriend, soon to be fiance, I think. Were they engaged? Okay. It talks about how he was a little ill at ease with the police picking them up.
That's true.
Right? So
that's actually probably why they did it. I didn't make that connection, but yeah, that was another
that's one
internal
scene that they
thing.
Could expand on.
Yeah, that was another internal thing. He didn't have a huge part in the movie, so they didn't have a whole lot of time to examine that character. So that was perfect, because he did scream louder than she did, and hit his face in her neck, and it was really quite funny. So you're right. That would probably be why they did it.
Yeah. There was another, there was Marty. Right?
Oh yeah, they introduced Marty.
And the book, I thought it was very odd, because he introduced this character, and that she just met in the grocery store when they didn't have anybody coming to their party. And he knew them, he knew what street they lived on, and he was kind of talking to her, and he knew who Blair was. And she...
Which is just a little creepy.
It happens to all of... No, it happens.
No, I know, but when they don't... It's...
I know, it happens, girl.
I know, but when they're talking about your daughter and saying her name and everything, to me, that would be a little bit creepy. I'd be like, how do you know my daughter?
No, because my girls... So many people know my girls, I'm just saying. We live in a smaller city, so...
But know exactly where they live, too.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking... It's a smaller city.
And you don't know them?
And they know what school they go to. Yeah, I mean, people didn't even know. A lot of kids didn't know my name. You know, I was just Kelsey or Corinne's mom. Here's my question to you, okay? So when you're writing a book, okay, so there's a book, a novel. When you're writing a novella, like with screenplays and stuff, is there, in order for it to qualify as a novella instead of a novel or a short story, does it have to have a certain number of pages?
Yes.
So maybe he did kind of flesh out the Marty part, but then he cut it out because it was too much book.
Possible, but it's more of a range. Like with screenplays, it's 90 pages to 100 pages. Especially if you're an unknown screenwriter. If you hand in a script that's more than that, they're telling you to trim the fat a bit. They're telling you to cut it down. But with books, it's more, and with screenplays also, they have strict structure rules. So like the inciting incident has to happen on page 10 or 11. The end of Act 1 going into Act 2 has to be like on page 25. And if you're off by more than a page or so, then that's a no-no.
I find a lot of movies and TV shows and stuff, there is a rhythm, and after a while you intuitively expect things to happen in a certain rhythm, a certain way, and if it's not, then it throws you off, and it actually throws off your enjoyment of what you're watching.
Yeah.
You get kind of pulled out.
And also, the second act is dragging on too long. You start looking at the time without even really knowing necessarily why. Some people know why, but there's other people who are just, okay, I don't know why, but this show's boring me all of a sudden. Or we've all had it happen where you're watching a show and they catch the bad guy like 20 minutes before the end of the show. And you're thinking, oh, you know what, no, he's not the bad guy or she's not the bad guy because it's too early. Something's gonna happen here where the real bad guy is gonna rear his ugly head.
Sometimes they mess with you that way too, because they know that's what you expect.
Yeah.
So then you're thinking, oh, well then that isn't the guy, but they're throwing a little speed bump in there for you, and then they switch it around, and it is the guy.
Ah, they tricked me. Yeah. So sometimes they do that as well, but the point is that you catch it. You're noticing that there's something off.
Yeah.
In the timing.
But back to novellas, you were saying that about screenplays. So with a novella, you said there's more of it's a range, not very precise.
Short stories are like anywhere between 5 and 20,000 words, I think. And then novellas are 20 to 40,000. And then with novels, it depends on the genre.
So if we're looking
like
at
middle
an
grade
adult novel,
for kids would be shorter than a young adult or an adult novel. I write young adult, and the range is between 60 or 65,000 words to, I mean, there's some that are like 100,000 words, but those are normally fantasy. Like The Hunger Games is a book that's longer, but they have a whole world to create.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Do that too.
Yeah, so it's just more of a range.
So if you're going to do an adaptation, you might want to do it with a novella as opposed to a novel, because you're not cutting out things that people are going to be upset about or melding characters together. People will be disappointed about. You know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you. Freaking timeline. That really upset me the first time. Anyway, that's another story. It kept with the tone. It really did keep with the tone really well.
It did. But like the dialogue,
you usually know that it was an added scene. Yeah. You know, it just flowed.
Yeah. And the dialogue they kept as well, even when they didn't keep it with the same characters. Like that one scene.
Did switch it. Yeah.
They switched Luther and Nora's lines in one scene when they're looking out at the carolers. I thought that was really cool. That they kept the dialogue word for word pretty much through the whole movie.
Yeah, they really,
And then they just kind of pulled a little switcheroo. I don't know if they had a reason for that or if it was just because they wanted to have fun.
Yeah. Maybe it was just with the, I forget what it's called, blocking. With the blocking.
Yeah.
Another show, not tell, was with the speech that...
Dan Aykroyd gave.
Yeah, what's his character's name again?
Morphin-Meyer or something? Morphin-Meyer or...
No.
Close to that. We'll see. I might have egg on my face. Stop making faces. I know. Frohmeyer!
Frohmeyer, there we go. I loved that part, by the way. He did a great job with that.
He did.
But with his speech, when he was getting the whole community to back Luther after he had been a real tool, again, there was stuff in the book that you have all that background and stuff, but he had to act it out and bring it out in the community.
Yeah.
Things that he was saying.
Yeah, and like the writer...
blame the daughter for the sins of the father.
And they did a really good job of making that flow as well.
Yeah, it all flowed through.
Where he, like, it didn't feel like this huge monologue speech. It just felt like him gathering the troops. It's so often that people will read a book and think, oh wow, they're missing a lot in the movie, where they have a preference, one or the other.
Well, usually with me, it's the book is better.
Yeah.
You know, but in this case, I think they were both really, really good. Very entertaining, family movie. You know, something that everybody can enjoy. I liked too that Luther's heart didn't grow 3 sizes that day. I love the Grinch. Don't get me wrong, but I liked that he didn't just like all of a sudden totally new Luther. You know, loves Christmas, loves everybody. he changed bit by bit by bit, right? And I thought Tim Allen did a really good job showing those changes, sometimes without actually saying anything. You know, there was little changes. And there were things in the book that he was actually probably a little bit more likable, because he said things like, yeah, I'm not gonna give to your charity right now, but I know you have something coming up in the summer, come see me then, and I'll give this much money.
They didn't do that in the movie,
and stuff like that. No, but I think that's because Tim Allen is likable.
Yeah.
You know, he's got that kind of...
He's got like an aura that makes him... Yeah.
So it makes him likable. So they didn't have to soften things and make him more likable. He didn't just totally change.
No.
You know, he did appreciate Christmas and the nice things about Christmas in the end, right? He did have an arc. It's just, it wasn't some crazy wild, just boom, they're a different person. And it's funny because two of my favorite Christmas movies and stories are The Grinch and Christmas Carol. And there was references there in his behavior, especially that hospital scene in the, oh my goodness, so funny. And the way the lead up to it was hilarious. She's in the hospital, she does volunteer work there, and she's reading The Grinch to the children, and Luther comes to see her, and she just sees him come in, and you just see she's reading it, you know.
And then she's realizing
no one quite knows the reason, you know. And then she looks over and she sees him, and then you see this look on her face like, you know, like, what's going on? You don't see it until they're out to dinner.
Oh my gosh, he had the Botox injections and he can't even chew.
Yeah, it was really good. But he had a Grinch-like look. So yeah, it was well done, very well done, that scene. I love that. Those two scenes.
Speaking as a writer and a screenwriter, I was really impressed with how well they adapted the book. The changes they made to the actual story were necessary to be able to show and not tell. And the book was well done, and the adaptation was really well done.
Well, speaking
phenomenal
as a reader and a TV and movie watcher.
You're also an author, a children's book author.
Yes, I am. I'm not published, but I am.
Yeah.
Speaking from that point of view, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good job. Great job. I have to say, casting is very important, and they did a great job with their casting.
It is, yeah.
There wasn't one character there that I was
disappointed in. Yeah,
and that I wasn't invested in.
Yeah, it's always very important with books and movies, TV shows, everything. You have to be invested in the characters.
So, if you have watched, if you've watched Christmas with the Kranks,
or have read Skipping Christmas, let us know what you thought.
If you disagree, I'd love to hear.
Leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on Wednesday with another edition of Sisters, Authors, and Friends. Alright, have a great day, guys. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. Bye-bye.
You mean Christmas in the Kranks, based on the story?
In the Kranks?
Christmas with the Kranks.
Have any of you guys seen the book? Or seen the book?